It's the movie toast show.
In college, attorney Molly Singer was the life of every party that she went to. Now that she is about to get fired from her job because she can't give up her partying ways. But Molly's boss tells Molly there's one way she can save her job, and that's to re enroll at her old alma mater and befriend Brenda's socially awkward son. Well, she has to take Brenda's son Elliot from zero to campus hero. Aided by her best friend, Molly goes to battle with stuck up hall monitors, boozed up frat bros, and her old archenemy in a hilarious quest through the past to save her future. She might even learn a few things. That's the premise of the new comedy movie from Lionsgate, The Re-Education of Molly Singer. This movie is funny, and it's not just over the top crazy humor, but there's heart, there's soul, and every scene serves a purpose. This is a really fun movie, and it comes out in theaters and on demand September 29th. And it's directed by Andy Palmer. And I just had the opportunity to sit down with Andy and talk about this movie. And with no further ado, let's get into it. Hi, Andy. Thank you for meeting with me today. How you doing?
Absolutely. Adam, pleasure to meet you, sir. I'm doing great, man.
Nice, nice. Did you just start the promotions for this movie, or have you been going at it for a couple of days now? Or
Today is my first day. This is the first time. I've definitely done like interviews before. I've never done anything like where I'm like talking to people back to back to back. This is a new a new thing for me, sir.
nice, nice. Well, I'm thankful that you're doing it, and you got a
Yeah.
great background going there. It's pretty cool.
I like to be a little eclectic and yep. But there was another guy that interviewed me that had as many tchotchkes as I had on the wall, and I was like jealous, man. I was like, man, you put me to shame, sir.
Definitely. Now, I was looking at your IMDb credits, and it looks like you have a wide range of like entertainment experience with writing, producing, directing, editing. Is there anything that you like dig the most, or do you kind of do it all and enjoy it all?
Yeah, I definitely dabble in everything. Directing is like obviously I think the most fulfilling because of just like the in kind of encapsulating experience and you're working with actors and you're on set and I'm a big tech nerd, so I love like cameras and I love like that kind of stuff. I will say that editing is the magic part. Like editing is that thing where you're just like
Hmm.
while you're cutting something, you can just create something just like it just makes your day, or you see something that just sort of makes your day and stuff like that. So it's really where like the story comes to life and stuff like that. So that's
And
yeah,
and it's like your
it's fun.
last chance to kind of
Yeah.
put the story together and change things up a bit. Was there anything in the re-education of Molly Singer that you found in post that you didn't really expect when you were editing
ton,
it?
tons of stuff. This was the first movie, and it was really just strictly for budgetary purposes, definitely not ego purposes. That I didn't. I've always edited my own stuff because I'm an editor, and we couldn't afford anybody with my experience, so I had to do it myself. But this was the first movie that we had budget to do that, and I convinced my buddy Tim Rush to edit it, and we lived together during production, so we were
Oh
in the
wow.
same condo. So I would come home, and he would have stuff from the day before, and it was just like he's so talented, and he just thinks of stuff that I would never think of in terms of like pacing and getting ins and outs of scenes and stuff like that. And such a creative guy, and so much of the movie is him. So much of the
Hmm.
movie is just his style, and I love him for it.
Now, one thing that kind of goes along with that, I noticed a lot of the scenes you have, they kind of you have more moments rather than like quick cuts. Like one of the scenes I love the most was when Molly wakes up, finds out her phone was unplugged, and then you cut down to seeing Ollie downstairs making pancakes, and he has
Yep.
a gentleman from the night before, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then she comes down and she leaves, and then we see there's another guy, and then we see she's like looking for a car, can't find it. It's like and then you have the mascot scene. You got a lot going on there.
Yep.
And you get to live in the moments, which I love. Did the studio fight you on that, or were they totally cool with letting you have fun and
So this this
experiencing?
movie this movie was totally independently financed. So we
Oh
were
wow.
we were on our own. Yeah, we actually this was Lionsgate acquired it later. So yeah, we were kind of left to our own devices. But that really harkens back to kind of my and this is something that my DP Philippe Vanuel, who's done every movie since Funhouse Massacre with me, he really taught me that like that blocking is more important than shots. I was always like, here's my scene and I have these characters and I'm going to do this shot and this shot and this shot and this shot. And he was the guy that was like, stop thinking in terms of shots and start thinking in terms of blocking. What are the actors doing in this space? And the shots will then create themselves. And the perfect example that you talk about is that shot where we pull back from Polly and he's making breakfast and you see exactly where he is as a character. He is in his underwear and
Hmm.
he has an apron on and he has his gentleman collar there. And then we literally just dolly back, pan over, and Molly comes flying down the stairs. This other guy pops up, and we say so much of what we need to say in just one shot. And as opposed to being
Mm,
like a shot of Ollie, a shot of the guy, a shot of her coming down the stairs, and stuff like that, you literally do it in one take, and all the characters moving within the frame. It just feels so much better, And
mm.
I feel like blocking is something that is not. You look at like De Palma and Spielberg and these guys, and like how simple the movements are, but how much is going on in the frame.
Definitely. And it helped make it feel like it was lived in and you get to know the characters a little more, which is really
Definitely.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Another scene that I really liked was like the big like drinking Olympic style game situation where you
Yes, the
had
booze
the
cathalon.
sports announcer. How was that like? Did you plan on set that you're going to have the voiceover, or was that kind of found in post?
We did not. That was another great question because that was another thing that was in post when the booze cathalon in the script was much longer. I had rounds and I was so obsessed with this booze cathalon. And then in production we only had one night to shoot all the booze cathalon. It was crazy.
Wow.
12 hours. I mean, I've never been that like elevated as a director in terms of energy, keeping all the background folks up, keeping the actors up, and at the same time moving from shot to shot to shot to shot, like in that one, because there are a lot of specialty shots in that
Mm,
one. But then we got into the editing. What we noticed is that like the game doesn't like it translates on the page much better because you're reading all the stuff that's happening, but in the movie it's harder to kind of like pick up all the elements of what's happening. And I didn't want to do like a thing where it was like, well, we're going to explain this game. I don't want to explain the game because we just want to see them have fun playing it. So then it was actually Todd, our producer, that came up with this idea of having like a sports commentary of it, and I was like, oh, that's genius. And so yeah, we did that after, and it totally fit perfectly.
wow. My mind is blown that you shot that all in one night. I thought maybe 2-3 days because you packed a lot in that time
It was
frame.
it
Wow.
was insane, and it was a complete pivot because the whole booze cathalon was supposed to take place outside. So
Huh.
we were shooting at that converted firehouse, and this guy had this just the backyard of this converted firehouse was this cool two-tiered backyard, and we had all like everything was like production design and all set up for an outside. And then Atlanta in the summertime we got thunder and lightning storms,
Ooh.
and so the day of my AD came in and he's like, bro, you're gonna get shut down. You're gonna get rained out. And I was like, okay. And we moved everything inside and it totally worked.
Wow, wow. And then it kind of even helped like when you're building the scene, having the guys bringing the table and she's
Oh,
setting it up
dude, you're
perfectly. Seemed
literally
scripted.
that table was outside. They were really bringing
Wow. Now that brings me to Britt, Ty, and Nico. They had a great like chemistry and bond, it felt like. Did they have a lot of time to rehearse or like hang out before principal started, or did they just kind of have that chemistry right off the get-go of shooting?
Yeah, I think the thing like especially when you have like people like Britt and Nico that are TV actors, it's like they just don't need it. Like they just don't
Hmm.
need that. We sat down, we all met in Atlanta about a week before our filming. Nico and Britt and I sat down one time, went through the script, and I was like, "You guys are amazing." And then Ty came in, and Ty had just come off The Whale, which was just like tonally just a completely different film, completely different type of filmmaking. And
Yeah.
it was honestly perfect because Ty had never done a comedy before. I think there was apprehension on his part as an actor, and that
Hmm.
awkwardness sort of translated to Elliot's awkwardness. But
100%.
Ty is such a good actor that instead of it feeling unnatural, it just went into the performance.
Huh.
And then within a couple days, he just like he got it. He just picked up on everybody's, the way that you deliver comedy. I remember he was very frustrated in the scene where he's about to go home because he was
Hmm.
playing it very like dramatic, and he knew it didn't like feel right. And so
Yeah.
I pulled him aside. I said, Ty, I was like, the thing about comedy drama is that it's all about exasperation. Like drama is like really serious. Comedy drama is all about like you're at that point of desperation where it's almost just funny that how bad things have going, you know?
Hmm.
And then he just sort of like it just clicked and he was like it was off to the races at that point.
I think one of my favorite scenes with Ty had to been when Wendy Malick was like, "Oh, I found a good buffet we can go to," and then she's at the strip club with him,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Yeah, smack her a little bit," and he's like, "No," and
Yeah.
like then when like it's just a learning moment. I'm like, that
Yeah.
was genius.
It was, and that was like the whole crux. So the original script had been written years ago, and it was called the Re-Education of David Singer, and it was like it was like very male driven,
Hmm.
and it was really funny. The premise was all there, but those were the kind of things where I read it and I went back to Kevin and Todd and I said we need to kind of modernize this, and I said I think it's hilarious that the parent brings the kid to the strip club, but this also needs to be a teachable moment. They still need to be a parent. And so I was like,
Hmm.
let's make this all about a lesson in consent. You know, he's going off to college. He's got to learn, you know, he's got to learn the rules, right? You know? And so,
Hmm.
yeah, it just became those sort of things of like, and I think that's what you have to do with comedy now is like, if you're going to push the envelope with comedy, we also have to be aware you know, where we are as a society and stuff like that. And so if everybody's in on the joke and it's not just a joke about a mom you know, being around a bunch of naked ladies with her kid, but it's an actual like
Yeah.
teachable moment and stuff like that. The humor just comes off that much, you know, that much better.
Yeah, and it's smart because it plays on so many levels. And that's one thing I really liked about Wendy's character. When I watched the trailer, I'm like, oh, she's just like this power corporate woman who really doesn't care much about stuff, but she really cares about her son and like is willing to take time off work, and she's not
Yeah.
just a businesswoman. That was great.
It's the thing that I loved about Jamie is that she really tapped into the idea of like, and everybody in this movie is really about finding yourself at any different point in your life. And so, you know, and you're never too old. And the thing that Elliot and Brenda are overcoming is trauma. And they're dealing
Hmm.
with it in different ways. You know, they're coming off the death of her husband, the death of his father, and he's trying to find his own path out of his father's shadow, and she has to let go of him and not be this helicopter mom to keep him close, to keep him safe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Jamie, man, she saw it and she tapped into it and she had so many great notes and little changes here and there. And it was amazing to watch.
I gotta apologize. I kept saying Wendy. I'm so sorry about that.
No,
It's
no,
Jamie
it's all right.
Presley. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but that does bring me to the next question. You have like such a great cast with your main characters, but like you have these comedic veterans with Jamie and Wendy and Carlos and Paul. Like, what was that like working with those guys? Were they just like open to do whatever and just like having fun with it, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Paul and I are really good friends. He did a movie that I did called Badlands of Cain, and we always sort of collaborate on stuff together. And same with Carlos. Carlos is just like I've done almost every movie. I think Carlos has only not been in one of my movies,
Wow.
and I try to get them because they're just not beyond being just incredible human beings. They're so talented. They're so funny, and they bring so much. I mean, the amount of stuff on the cutting room floor from Paul being in two scenes of the movie is just it's just you could do a whole movie on it. It was
Oh,
hysterical. And
he stole the
Carlos,
scenes too every time he popped up. I'm like, oh my gosh.
yeah, he's so funny. I adore Paul. And yeah, having those guys in there just changes they just changes things for sure.
Now, did you have a lot of improv on set, or was everything kind of written there on the
Oh,
script?
tons. It was our whole goal. We knew who we were casting, and my whole goal was like creating repetition with the actors. So it was like we kind of like we set out to kind of like limit setups. We didn't do like a ton of crazy different camera setups, and we shot two camera and we shot on zoom lenses, so we didn't have to swap out lenses all the time. And the idea being that like I just wanted to give the actors reps. So in any
Hmm.
given scene. We do 7, 8, 9, 10 reps. Like on a David Fincher movie, that's nothing. But for me, on every movie I've ever done has been one or two. It was so nice to have that variety, and I really wanted to give the actors that freedom. So we would throw out lines. The actors would think of stuff. I'd think of stuff. Todd would tap on my shoulder and be like, "Have her say this." So it was really fun.
Nice. It felt fun having that freedom, probably.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of the things that you've done in the past have been primarily horror. Is there anything about this that kind of was dragged you out of the genre, or have you kind of always had that taste for doing comedy?
Yeah, I always wanted to do comedy. I mean, my heroes when I would wanted to become a filmmaker were Kevin Smith and Linkletter and Edward Burns and like those were my guys. Like those are the
Hmm.
guys I wanted to to make movies like them. And horror kind of came about because we could get a horror movie made for relatively low budget and get it sold and then hopefully get to go make another one. And then what happened is I just fell in love with the horror community. We would go to festivals and these horror conventions, and I just loved horror fans. They're the coolest people ever.
Oh yeah.
So nice, so supportive. I mean, I've had people have tattooed Dollface from the Funhouse Massacre on their arm. They've wrapped their car in in Funhouse Massacre characters and stuff like that. Like it's been such a cool ride. But I did notice making Funhouse or making Witness Infection, and even Camp Coldbrook has some like sort of comedic tones. I am stronger in comedy. Like I feel it's like it feels more natural to me than the horror stuff. The horror stuff is like really challenging for me to create tension and scares and stuff like that. Whereas the comedy just is like putting on a glove.
That's kind of nice. So now, do you think this will be your calling card to kind of move away from horror a little bit, but still kind of dabble in it?
Yeah, nice. I think so. I mean, I'll never turn down an amazing story, but yeah, I definitely making Molly Singer. I was like, oh yeah, this is where I belong, and it was felt like I remember my Warner Davis, my producing partner, has done every movie I've ever done, and he was just like, dude, this is you. Like you are commanding this set in a way I've never seen before,
But I mean, and it shows because you knew what you were doing, and like the laughs were on like every second of the movie. There was something happening, and
nice,
it worked perfectly. I thank you very much for everything, for meeting with me. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Yeah, I hope this is a good, big, wide release for you.
Adam, I appreciate it, man. I hope so. You got a Yellowstone shirt on? What are you rocking right there?
No, this is from it's Aftermath. It's this little action movie I was a secretary on last year.
Oh, cool.
So,
very cool. Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
Dude,
Awesome.
Swag. I like it.
Yeah, I figure why not?
Absolutely.
I had the day off. Toss it on. Yeah. Sweet. Well, thank you very much. It was great meeting you.
Great meeting you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
It's the Movie Toasty Show.